Francis has come and gone finally from the Bahamas. Our Joy Purdy rode out the storm, the eye of the storm, I might add, in the Abaco Island chain. She joins us now on the phone from Marsh Harbor. And Joy, I want to thank you for making us feel like we were there too with your vivid descriptions. Tell us what it's like now that it's passed.
Well, Maggie, Rob, good to hear you. Right now we are kind of dodging rain squalls that are rolling through. There's a break right now. I'm looking out the door of the bunker at our hotel, and there's just a lot of wind, the palm trees swaying, and it looks like the rain is about to roll in again. We got a chance to go downtown and look around Marsh Harbor, as well as the outlying towns that border Marsh Harbor, Dunkstown and Murphytown. The biggest problem is flooding. It is unbelievable, guys, when the waters are trying to recede back now into the ocean, and they're causing waterfalls over the seawall going back into the ocean. There are folks actually outside waist deep in water trying to clear out some of the drainage ditches in the middle of the street. There are streets. Most of the streets are underwater. We passed by a few people who were in rowboats, which passed by our truck. We got into our truck again with the two locals who have been so nice to take us around. Big pickup truck that seats 4 people. So we've been fairly safe. The power company is out with their backhoes, and they've been pushing some of the debris out of the way to allow the water to move quickly. The homes, most of the homes sustained minor damage, but the ones that have been hit hard with the flooding, the water is up to the windows in some of the low-lying areas. We actually talked to some of those people who are insisting on leaving the shelters, going back to their homes, and they're having to stand on top of kitchen counters, kitchen tables, because there's 2 feet of water inside their house, and asking them how soon that water would recede before they can kind of start cleaning up. They said the last time this happened, it took 2 weeks for them to completely dry out. So that is the situation right now. We got a chance to speak to some people who rode out the storm back in 1999 to compare Francis today with Floyd back then, and they said then Floyd was just very, very strong and moved through here fast and was so powerful it caused a whole lot more damage. This time around, as you saw, Hurricane Francis just sat on top of us. It started yesterday, very, very hard, the worst of it at 6 in the evening. It did not start letting up until almost 8 o'clock this morning, and we just could not believe how much rain and wind was coming our way. So that is the very latest for now. Maggie, Rob?
Joy, we're looking now at some video that I'm told is coming in from Marsh Harbor. Nevertheless, if it's not Marsh Harbor, it's Nassau, but this is Marsh Harbor, I'm being told now in my ear. As we look at this and you describe this damage, I want to ask you about that small community you kept mentioning, rather underprivileged people. You were afraid of what might happen to that community. Have you had any word yet?
Yes, actually we were able to go in there. Just to give everyone a quick background, there are 14,000 people who live in the Abaco Islands. 3,000 live in this one community, the Haitian community. It is the poorest area, the lowest lying area. Most of the roads through this community are not paved, so when it rains, it just turns into mud, and it has given this area the nickname, the Mud. So we've walked through there, much of the same. The flooding has gone into the homes. That's what emergency officials were afraid of, the contaminated water. There were several people who actually stayed through Hurricane Francis in these homes. I don't know how they made it through there with all the wind and the rain coming through. The structures themselves, amazingly, are still standing. We have not seen any homes in that area that have totally been destroyed. That's what emergency officials thought might happen because they're made out of wood, these homes, instead of concrete. As we spoke with some of the residents, they were a bit shaken, some coming from the shelters where most of them spent the time. The problem now is it's going to take forever, in their words, for the water to go away and for them to kind of get back to their normal lives. But for the most part, most of the people left and spent their time in shelters.
That is good to hear, Joy. As we look at video during the storm, I keep seeing over and over downed power lines. Is power completely off, shut down to your island?
Yes, it is. The power company actually went ahead just before the storm got very bad and shut power altogether because they knew there were going to be downed lines and they didn't want to take any chances of any sparks flying. But yes, driving through the town, power is still out, and that also includes the water supply. We have not had running water for more than 24 hours now. Fortunately, we did fill up bathtubs and sinks and that sort of thing, so we've kind of been taking sponge baths and brushing our teeth in that manner, but there's no power, no solid waste facilities at this point. Power lines are all over the place, and you can tell the difference between the power lines and the phone lines. The power lines are the ones laying all on the ground. The telephone lines are the lighter lines that are just fluttering in the wind, and with every gust they seem to stretch out like an audio tape. If you were to take the black tape out of an audio tape, that's what they look like, just all across the city, almost like tinsel on a Christmas tree.
Joy, are you able to look outside right now?
Yes, I can see outside the back from our hotel.
You said some people were out. I mean, give us an atmosphere of, is it a lot of people out, or is the weather still too bad for them to go out and really assess the damage?
No, a lot of people are out and walking about. They've been out for a few hours now. I want to say for at least 3 hours. Every time a rain squall comes by, they just get stuck in it and they just trudge through it. Nobody's running for cover or anything like that. They just kind of let it fall and eventually it stops. Right now, the wind is very strong. It's not so strong that I have to take the stance that I did last night, that wrestler's stance, just to walk a few steps. Don't have to do that anymore, but the breeze is strong enough, so strong that you do have to be careful of your step. The palm trees are still leaning over, but none are falling anymore at this point. There's not a whole lot of debris flying around either.
Joy, lastly, now as you survey the damage and the worst is over, tell me the mood of the people. Obviously, they have a long cleanup ahead, but are they feeling fortunate in some ways or not?
You know, Maggie, it's amazing. Most people that we have spoken to are in a great mood. I think they're just enjoying being able to smile and laugh. People are joking with each other, trying to get everybody's spirits up. And in talking to them and asking them, you know, we try to speak to people in a somber tone just because we don't know what they're having to deal with. And everyone has returned to us like, hey, we're fine. All of our friends and family are fine. And the damage wasn't really as bad as they thought it was going to be. Again, in Hurricane Floyd in '99, it came through so hard and strong that most people lost their roofs or some part of their homes that they never found again. Doors that just took off and ended up nobody knows where. So they're just happy their structures are still standing. They are willing to wait out until the water recedes. Whether or not it will dry out anytime soon, they don't seem to be concerned with. They're just happy they have roofs over their head. And even though those roofs are torn up, that doesn't seem to bother them at all. The people we were driving with in our truck had shingles and holes in their roof. And I said, well, what are you guys going to do? They said, oh, we're fine. We're just going to patch it up. It may take a couple days, but our house is still here. And that seems to be all that they really are concerned about after they have found out that everyone is safe.
Joy, that's testament to the spirit of the Bahamian people, I think, and you know they will rebuild, and the smiles going on there. We anxiously await videotape today from the Marsh Harbor area so that we are better prepared here for what we may expect. Joy Purdy from Marsh Harbor, Bahamas, thank you so much for the phone report.
It speaks to the resiliency of the human spirit. We saw it here right after Hurricane Andrew. People lost everything, but at least they were alive and they knew that it was time to regroup, start over, and just be grateful for what they did have, their families and their lives. When we woke up this morning after having been on 12 hours yesterday, leaving and seeing not much had changed, we finally did see some squalls starting to move in and some pretty heavy surf and wind and rain in South Florida.
Oh, yeah, the trees blowing around outside the house. Everything has changed quite a bit. Let's go right to Brian Norcross now. Brian has the latest.
All right, let's bring you up to date, because in Broward County, they're definitely feeling now for that first major band from Hurricane Francis. Here you see it. It's now taken over a good part of Broward County, down from Fort Lauderdale up to Coral Springs. There's still some breaks in it here, and it's going to vary because it is the very, very edge of the band. But around Deerfield, on down to Lighthouse Point, pretty strong. Still, most of the heavier weather is to the north and offshore. Here you can see the very well-developed gyre, they call this. Now, the storm was trying to develop an eye up in this area right here. It looks like that is not happening. When we can go to the National Hurricane Center again, be interesting to get their analysis, but it looks like that this very large circulation is going to be the dominant feature. So this is the hurricane coming ashore. It's happening right now, especially you can see Palm Beach County, Martin County, up to Fort Pierce. Now watch, I go even wider. Off on the side of the screen here is Abaco, right on the right side. That's Marsh Harbor there where Joy was. And you can see there are still bands rotating around out there, but we don't see them because they're not in radar range. They're the pictures from Pompano where we can, in the corner there, where you can see that it is blowing, really blowing there, because in this band here, this one right here, winds are in the 80, 90, 100 mile an hour range, especially up in the Martin County and St. Lucie County area, but all the way down to Boca Raton here, the 80 mile an hour winds have been reported. So it's just on the fringe, because obviously most of the folks watching here are in Dade and Broward County, just on the fringe of metropolitan Miami, Fort Lauderdale at the moment. Now what the thinking is this thing is going to just, a whole mess is going to move about like that, and so the bottom edge of this is, it looks like it's going to come through Broward, but Miami-Dade, much of Miami-Dade is going to get a fringe effect. Now, as you pointed out, Rob and Maggie, the winds out in here are blowing pretty good. We have some tropical storm force winds out there, but the real strong winds are in these bands right here that are coming in. That's Sunny Isles Beach now in the corner of your screen. The wind's not as strong there. Now, watch as I put this into motion. You can see how this is going to spiral on in, and as the overall circulation, the big internal circulation here, kind of moves in the direction of Juno Beach, what's going to happen is that this side of it is going to pile water. Storm surge looks like from about Jupiter, which is right on the Martin County and Palm Beach County line, on up through St. Lucie County, maybe to about Vero Beach up in there. So in that area is where the biggest storm surge is going to be. Now we've gotten some storm surge on the Broward County coast. That's because when the circulation was out here, the winds were from the northeast, pushing water all the way up and down the Florida coast, and that's why in general tides were extra high. High tide, by the way, comes up here in about 45 minutes. But now that the storm is moving over and the winds here are going to switch around in Dade and Broward, switch around to the northwest and then the west, that's going to start to push the water offshore, so our beach erosion on the extreme southeast coast will be limited. And we can take a look at the official, matter of fact, the official gusts that have been reported at the various airports around town. And there you see Fort Lauderdale, 35 at North Perry, 40, 43 at Opelika. So these are tropical storm force gusts. So that's the kind of wind that takes down power lines, snaps trees, and so forth. And that's why we have concern for that sort of thing. Now the wider view, and on the screen there in the corner, that's Juno Beach. Now Juno Beach is just north of West Palm Beach, but our camera is in sort of a protected area there. It looks like it's not right at the beach. Now take a look at the radar sequence going back about 6 hours, and we can see that the storm is finally starting to move slowly toward the coast of Florida. Now right in here, right in there, that's where it was trying to develop an eye, and thankfully it looks like that is not happening in any kind of robust kind of way. Now there still is this little window of opportunity between there and the coast for it to go over the Gulf Stream and possibly strengthen, in which case the strongest winds would really be concentrated again. Right now they're spread out over a fairly wide area there, and the storm surge will be spread out as well. And here also on the back of the storm you can see these bands are going to rotate up around, and still over there in Abaco it's still going to rain for some time, and this thing is just slowly going to move in. But I want to remind you that all this back out here is all rain. It's just out of radar range, and we'll be able to see it here on the satellite picture how big the storm is in terms of where the rain is going to fall. All right, here we go in motion. Last 24 hours, moves to the northwest, and now it's moving in a much more west-northwesterly direction, something like that. That's the center of the storm, but the news is not at the center. The news is in these bands out here in the front and the bands out here in the back. Look, there's Abaco, and look how far the bands have to go yet before the weather is really going to improve in Abaco. And now to take that storm, take this whole mass here across the state like that, and look how far it's got to go before the weather improves for us even here in Miami-Dade County, and all the way across the state, even down to the Keys. So it really, in some sense, is really just beginning here in terms of the bad weather, although the backside won't be as strong as the front side because the storm is just going to weaken when it goes over land. All right, here's the close-up of the satellite picture, and we can see it trying to develop. Right there, that's the strong cells right there, trying to pull that together, but notice with this break back in here, it just isn't happening, and that's good. It's that the eye wall that we just don't want to see. There's been the movement, and you see it kind of jogs to the north, but it's really that the eye is not well developed, so it's very even hard to determine exactly where it is. All right, at 11 o'clock, here are the numbers: 26.9, 78.8. Winds 105 miles an hour, and hurricane hunters have been out there checking it out. And indeed, that's what they've been finding, and the wind measurements on the coast have verified winds up in that range: 90 miles an hour, Jupiter, 80 miles an hour, Boca Raton. So that seems to be about it. Moving at 4, but I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't pick up a little bit, just judging by what we're seeing on the radar. That was at 11, and it was 80 miles east of Palm Beach there at 11 o'clock. Now, here's the future tractors for timing here. You see that tonight, that's going to, the storm is the center of the storm will be still offshore, so that means that the rain bands will still be coming in like this, not that far along is the point. And then we go on into the morning tomorrow. Now you see it's beginning to pick up some speed, and so by tomorrow morning we'll still have rain bands here. Actually, it'll be more. It won't be quite like that. It'll be more like this. We'll be getting the winds coming in from the south, and we'll still have them, but the wind should be letting up. And now it looks like if the storm does weaken and stay over central Florida, that we should be able to get out tomorrow morning. We just have to be careful and see exactly how it develops. Then it moves on over by Sunday evening and is finally out of the picture Monday morning, and our weather should improve. And then by late on Wednesday, it moves all the way up there into the Midwest, and has the potential to become a major flood in that part of the country. So there's your update now. A little later on, we'll bring you up to date on tropical storm, eventually Hurricane Ivan. I know nobody wants to think about that, but we need to know because it is something that we're going to have to watch next week, at least. Not necessarily deal with, but at least watch.